Hello, everyone. I am Nicole Benedicto Elden, and I'm a clinical psychologist and assistant director of the Student Counseling Service at the CUNY Graduate Center here in New York City. Today, I will be talking to Eva Jo Meyers. Hello, Eva.
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Eva holds a master's degree in humanities and leadership, and she has had various positions in administration, program development, consulting, coaching, education, and many, many more. She is a very sought-after workshop presenter, particularly on issues of facilitating engagement, diversity, and equity within group settings. And she has done quite a number of workshops for us this year, which we are so, so grateful for. And today she's going to be talking about the most recent workshop that she facilitated with our graduate students. Basically, it's self-care for graduate students, which honestly is a topic that is so salient right now, given our current public health crisis, namely COVID-19. So welcome, Eva.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Eva, the first question is, can you tell us a little bit about the workshop that you recently facilitated for our graduate students?
Sure. So when I do a workshop, it's really a workshop. Like you're going to really do some hands-on, a lot of talking. It's not the kind of thing where you just sit back and watch. It's really participatory. And so we start by doing a meditation where we think about what our perfect day would be like. And then we get into small groups. So we use the feature in Zoom where you go into breakout rooms so that people can talk either with usually one or two other people, and they share about their perfect days. And what they try to come up with is whether there's any common elements between their perfect days. And what I found in doing these workshops for students was that they did come up with we had some real strong themes there about people's perfect days. And in general, when I do that workshop, I find like nature and good weather. There's always people who like rain and things, but usually it's like a sunny day. A lot of times people are outside on the beach with friends or loved ones. Right? And then we talk about, how different is that from our current reality? And then where we move to with that is how can we bring elements of our perfect day into our everyday and our current situation. And so people came up with such great ideas, like I'm going to move my desk closer to my window so I have more natural light, or I'm going to open my window when I work, or I'm going to put some plants on my desk, or some photos of my friends and family who I'm missing right now. I'm going to, make it more homey feeling. So people came up with some really lovely ideas, or I'm going to have my favorite lavender lemonade that I like to eat, drink when I'm on the beach or something. So, people came up with great ideas for how to bring elements of their perfect day into their everyday. And then from there, we talked together as a group a little bit about all of the things that are stressing people out right now. And
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, and what effects that's having on them. And depending on the size of the group, we either stay together or I separate them into small groups of 5 people per room, and they get a chance to share. And we put a grid together. And what's nice about that is it helps people get some clarity and think about, what is stressing me out right now?
Yeah. That's so wonderful, because I think given what's going on right now with COVID-19, many of us are so immersed in it that this kind of exercise of sort of zooming themselves out and really thinking about where they were and where they are right now is such a valuable tool.
And I always tell people, I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained as a therapist. What I do is help people be better in the workplace and in their jobs. And a lot of what I do is around habit formation, which maybe something about. And so it's very hard for us to change our habits and our patterns if we're not aware of what those are. And so there were some really wonderful realizations that people had in the workshop about, I didn't realize, like, this is the thing that's stressing me out, and I actually have some control over that thing, which is, I think, interesting. And I think it's also good for people to see what's stressing everybody else out and feel like I'm not the only one who's being
Yes.
stressed out by that thing.
Yes, right. What kind of stressors did they share with you, and were any of them like related to COVID-19?
I was actually really surprised in the workshops I did. I thought more of the stressors would be about COVID-19. And there
Mm-hmm.
certainly were some, like people worried about getting sick, people were worried about family members who were sick, people worried about getting groceries or how to like get in and out of their apartment, without touching things.
Right.
But actually, a lot of the stress was also just about school and
Yeah.
getting work done and deadlines when it's been more challenging, it sounded like, to get a hold of people. And you can't go into office hours to talk
Right.
to your advisor. You have to schedule, And so I guess those are COVID-19 related, but they weren't as, it wasn't as focused on the
Yeah.
illnesses as it was focused on, I still have to get my work done. I still have to teach my classes.
Right. And
So
that's the
that was
balance
surprising.
anyway, because all our lives still have to go on while we're also dealing with COVID-19. So that really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think also just a lot of uncertainty for people, like if you were expecting to graduate, what's going to happen, or you had some job lined up, what's going to happen. So I think a lot of that anxiety around what's coming up next
Mm.
um,
Mm. Yeah.
presented itself too.
Right.
Mhm.
What was the impact of these stressors on them? Did they share how it was impacting their lives?
Oh yeah, I mean that's where some of the great conversations really happened, where people sort of realize like, oh, a lot of people struggle with sleep. I saw
Yeah.
a lot of insomnia,
Yeah.
a lot of inability to focus and actually get anything done because you've got other worries on your mind,
Yeah.
or and then a lot of like sort of self-doubt or feelings of
Mm.
questioning, am I handling this well? Am I
Yeah.
doing the right thing?
Yeah. As
Which
if
of
there
course
was a
it's
right
like,
thing, right?
yeah, and it's also like you're almost like you're worrying about the worry.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
and so, and then there were some people who really like felt severe anxiety and anger and upset, and short-temperedness,
Mm.
which can also,
Yeah.
impact your ability to focus. And,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You already mentioned a couple of ways that people came up with strategies and coped with and came up with things that they could do in the future in order to cope with what they're dealing with. But can you talk a little bit more like in a targeted way about like what kind of coping strategies and interventions maybe were shared during the workshop that might be particularly helpful to those who did not attend the workshop?
absolutely. I really there was like such a gamut of suggestions, and a lot of them are so good for me myself to hear. So like one person was sharing how they've been having to drink more caffeine because they haven't been sleeping well, but
Mhm.
how like that then impacts their sleep, and like, oh, maybe I need to switch to some tea later in the day instead
Mhm.
of drinking so much caffeine. And I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, me too. Like
Yeah,
I
me
need to be
three.
more mindful um, of how, like if I'm tired, just letting myself feel tired for an
Mm.
afternoon so that I can sleep. People had ideas about turning off social media, being mindful of reading the news, certainly
Yeah,
not reading the news before bedtime,
yeah,
um, and a lot of things about sort of mind shifting things, like noticing the good things that happened in the day,
yeah.
instead of always focusing on all the things that didn't go the way they were supposed to go.
Right.
Um, there was also a bunch of stuff about, reorganizing space. Like you're stuck in your apartment and that can feel really claustrophobic. So like, how can I rearrange my space to make it feel more
Yes.
spacious?
Yeah.
You
Especially
know,
in New York City, where people have such cramped quarters, to have your office in your bedroom, or for some people, their
yeah.
office is in their living room, and in order to create like even just like a tiny little safe space where this is where I do work and the other places I don't. That's really so important.
Yeah, and that definitely came out. I think a couple others sort of along that line is also to make sure you get some time to go outside
Yeah.
during the day.
Yeah.
I think there were some people who were like, oh, I haven't been doing a good job about that.
Yeah.
And I also like this one theme that came up a couple of times about done is better than perfect.
Uh-huh.
Like, make your list, cross off your things when they're done, and let it be done, and not keep worrying about does things need to be better?
Yeah.
Do I need to?
That
Do
seems
I need
so,
to?
that seems like such a great strategy just in general in life.
I think so many of these
Yeah.
are like that. Like they really are just. Yeah, if we could all just do that in general, we'd be feeling better off. But I think those are some really good ones. And I think, what I always say is start with just one little practice that you're going to shift. So maybe like don't try to do them all at once. Like maybe today or this week, just focus on clearing up your desk a little bit and throwing out old papers. Like just do one thing at a time. Or maybe this week, just try to get outside a couple times.
Yeah.
Or just try to get a little time in with talking to some friends on the phone in the evening instead of watching the news or something. Just one little thing to shift your
That's
day.
great. Yeah, that's great. And finally, just one more question. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you would like to share about the experience of the workshop that you think might be helpful to our students that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, sure. I think a lot of people are anxious about going to a workshop, like what,
Yeah.
is it worth my time,
Yes.
basically? And like, what is it for me? And so just to be transparent about it, like in this particular workshop, if people want to keep their video off, I let them keep their video off. I make sure everyone introduces themselves so we can make sure they're real people to start. And then we just, it's really relaxed, and everything is always just an invitation to share. You're not required to share if you don't want to. There's a nice balance of individual reflection time, small group time where you can talk, and then whole group time. And it's all by invitation. So if anything feels like you want to opt out, you can opt out of it. It's pretty laid back. And we try to have some fun, and laugh. And I really hope that people come in feeling if they've been feeling anxious, that when they leave, they feel a lot better by the end. And that seems to be the case,
Yeah, I
better.
heard from a couple of students actually who went to your workshop, and they did say that it helped them a great deal. So thank you very
Okay,
much. And thank
great.
you so much, Eva, for taking the time to do this video and for sharing these insights that happen in the workshop with our students who were not able to go to the workshops. And I'm hoping that maybe in the fall you can do a couple of more of these sorts of workshops with our students, and maybe in person, maybe virtually. I guess it's all depending on what
We don't
happens.
know.
We don't know. Yeah, so thank you so much. And I also wanted to thank everybody who's watching right now. I want to wish you all safety and health, and actually kindness and grace in your lives, but also in your hearts.